To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself. Søren Kierkegaard. Have you ever stopped and wondered why your insight makes people uneasy? Why the more you understand the world, the more disconnected you feel from it? Why your silence, your questions, your refusal to play along with shallow norms repels others, especially women? The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard once said that people demand freedom of speech as a substitute for the freedom of thought they rarely use. But you think. And that alone is dangerous. You're not intimidating because you're aggressive. You're intimidating because you're unpredictable. In a society that equates predictability with safety, a man who thinks for himself is a threat by default. Modern relationships often hinge on comfort, not truth. But you, the intelligent man, are allergic to illusions. You can't help but notice the cracks in people's masks, the disconnect between what they say and what they mean. You see the performance, you feel the falseness, and when you don't pretend not to see it, you shatter the script. Kierkegaard warned that the crowd is untruth. So when you refuse to be absorbed by that crowd, when you choose a life of introspection, meaning, and stillness, you don't just upset social expectations. You expose them. Women don't fear intelligent men because they're smart. They fear them because they can't control them. You don't use flattery to win affection. You don't need praise to feel masculine. You don't pursue just to prove your worth. You don't need the game because you see through the game. And when you do love, you love with devastating honesty, not for ego, but for awakening. And that kind of love? It terrifies people. Your clarity, your discernment, your ability to see through emotional fog, it's rare. And the rare is almost always rejected before it is revered. Kierkegaard wrote extensively on despair, not the way we use the word casually, but as a kind of spiritual sickness, the sickness of not knowing who you truly are. And that's what the modern world fears most, that men might wake up, that they might stop pretending, that they might reclaim their minds, because a man who doesn't crave approval cannot be manipulated, and a man who cannot be manipulated is dangerous. Ask yourself, why do you feel like a stranger in every room? Why does your silence make people uncomfortable? It's because, in an age where everyone is trying to be seen, you're one of the few who sees. And truly seeing people, especially when they're hiding, makes them feel exposed. Kierkegaard said, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And intelligent men live forward, but with eyes wide open. They dissect everything: emotion, power, manipulation, love, lies. So what happens when a man stops being dazzled by the surface? When he no longer craves the chase? He becomes unreadable, not cold, but whole. And that wholeness disrupts the fragile ecosystem of modern dating, where ambiguity is mistaken for passion and dysfunction is sold as chemistry. Kierkegaard lived this. He walked away from the only woman he ever loved. Not because he didn't care, but because he cared too much. He understood that to live with truth sometimes requires walking alone. Men, listen closely. The more awake you become, the more isolated you may feel. That isn't failure. That's initiation. You scare people not because you are mean, but because you are sovereign. A man who cannot be trained cannot be tamed. Most people aren't looking for love. They're looking for usefulness. They want a role, a provider, a performer, a puppet. But when you step outside of those expectations, you vanish to those still imprisoned by them. Kierkegaard called this the leap of faith, to walk away from comfort and roles in pursuit of truth, even if it costs everything. And it will cost you. But it will also give you something far more valuable. Clarity. Not just knowledge, but knowing. The kind of knowing that can't be bought, sold, or explained. At that level, your intelligence stops being about data and becomes about awareness. You no longer need to be seen because you've seen, and that unsettles people because they haven't. Kierkegaard said, "To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself." Most men lose themselves not from stupidity, but from apologizing for their strength. You were taught to be agreeable, to smile when things felt fake, to stay quiet when you wanted to speak, to play nice to be loved. But love that demands the death of your truth is not love. It's captivity. The intelligent man who refuses to conform threatens not just women, but every system that depends on his silence. Your power doesn't come from domination. It comes from precision, from presence, from being seen and seeing others in return, truly seeing them. Most people don't want to be seen. They want to be comforted. They want their illusions reinforced. But the intelligent man cannot reinforce an illusion because he's already broken through it. And especially in love, this is radical. For you, love isn't a transaction. It's a mirror. It's not a performance of unresolved childhood wounds. It's truth. And truth, when lived out loud, is terrifying because it cannot be negotiated. It simply is. You don't chase. You don't beg. You don't perform. You walk away when the space demands you betray yourself. And that kind of man, a man who chooses alignment over affection, is the most dangerous man in the room because he doesn't react. He chooses. He chooses when to speak, when to be silent, when to walk away. He chooses his words like a scalpel, not to wound, but to cut through the noise. And that scares people. Because most people are still playing roles, still performing for love, still adjusting their truth to fit the script. But not you. You stopped playing. So when you walk into a room and don't seek validation, when your presence doesn't ask to be liked but demands to be respected, it rattles people. Because you're not performing, and that's the secret. The intelligent man is not digestible. He is not available on demand. He is not a vending machine of affection or approval. He is sovereign. That sovereignty, it changes how he loves, how he leads, how he works, how he walks through the world. People will try to label you cold, arrogant, distant, but you're not. You're composed, you're aligned, you're grounded. And those who fear reflection will always reduce what they can't understand. Let them. Don't shrink. Let your clarity disturb the noise. Let your solitude deepen your truth. You weren't made to be palatable. You were made to be whole. And wholeness is terrifying in a world addicted to fragmentation. But that's what makes you unforgettable. Kierkegaard once wrote, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are, but you. You are refusing that despair. You are choosing to become. And that journey, as lonely as it may feel, will gift you something no approval ever could. Freedom. Freedom from the need to be liked. Freedom from the performance. Freedom from the roles. It will change how you love. You won't search for someone to fill your silence. You'll protect it. You won't try to impress. You'll observe. You won't worship fantasy. You'll invite truth. And maybe she'll come. Maybe she won't. But either way, you'll walk whole. And when you do, you won't be for everyone, but you'll be unforgettable to the few who truly see. So don't dim your fire. Don't fake your presence. Don't dilute your silence just to make others comfortable. You're not too deep. You're not too much. You're not cold. You're just whole. And in a world that profits from brokenness, wholeness is the final rebellion. The intelligent man doesn't dominate. He becomes. And that becoming, that's what scares them most.